AMD has just shared their Q4 and yearly results, and it should come as no surprise that results for client-facing products were not good, much like with the rest of the industry. Results would have been much worse hadn't it been for one particular segment. News are not great for PC enthusiasts, however, as you're about to see. Let's dive into AMD's financial results and see what the company has in store for 2023. Today's video is sponsored by Urcdkeys.com. If you buy a retail Windows 10 key, you could spend $100 or more. But if you buy an OEM key from Urcdkeys.com, a Windows 10 Pro key will cost you only $15 when you use the coupon code C25. The keys work globally, and you can even get a free upgrade from Microsoft to Windows 11 if you wish. After you've made your purchase, you will find your key in your purchased orders in the Urcdkeys website. Click on Get Keys and copy the key. Then in Windows, click on Start and type Activate, and then on Activation Settings. Then click Change Product Key, pasting the key you just purchased, and click Next. That's it. Your copy of Windows is now activated. If you want Office 2021 Professional, you can use the same C25 discount code and get it for just $60. Urcdkeys is also having a spring sale with some cool, affordable mechanical keyboards, gaming mice, and even chairs. A big thanks to Urcdkeys.com for sponsoring today's video. Check the links in the video description to get your cheap OEM Windows keys today. Looking at the results in detail, we see that data center grew 2.9% quarter over quarter from 1,609 million to 1,655 million. So 1.6 billion flat pretty much. So quite a bit lower than expected for data center. AMD has been touting market share gain and leadership products, but the customers don't seem to be investing right now. And AMD isn't supply constrained anymore, so they simply couldn't sell all the data center chips they made. Client shrank 11.6% quarter over quarter from 1,022 million to 903 million, but yearly is down a massive 50%. What's interesting about this is that Intel is down 30% yearly, so aggressive price cuts from Intel are actually working. Well, they're minimizing the bleed for Intel compared to AMD. The one segment that surpassed expectations was embedded. The Xilinx acquisition is saving AMD's ass right now. The same with Pensando. Without those, AMD would be in the red. Buying Xilinx was a genius move in every way possible and is paying back in spades. So overall revenue is up 16% to 5.6 billion and margins are down to 43%. Not great, but far from the catastrophe at Intel. Guidance for this year is somewhat vague, but overall not particularly positive. Some of Lisa's comments were definitely worrying, especially for us PC enthusiasts. As we look at Ryzen 7000 and where it goes and where we are positioned in the commercial as well as the high-end consumer segments, we're not changing our strategy on PCs. Quite a few years ago, we really focused on sort of the more premium segments. We have less penetration in the low end, which I think is helpful. Remember when AMD was the value option? Well, the Radeon 7000 GPUs are a clear indication of how that has changed. We'll get back to that. Lisa went on to say, and I think we have much better visibility into the various pieces. As it relates to the pricing environment, I do believe that the pricing environment is, particularly when you're clearing older inventory and older generation products, is a bit more competitive. And we see that. As we look forward, the way we're modeling the client business is that we're modeling gross margins to be less than corporate average. Basically, this means aggressive price cuts coming for older generation hardware in the coming 3 months. So Ryzen 5000 CPUs and Radeon 6000 GPUs will come down in price, and that will be matched by Intel, and we'll have to wait for the Nvidia call later this month to see if that applies to GeForce also. I doubt Nvidia needs to cut any prices though. Back to GPUs, Nvidia's RTX 4090 has showed up in the Steam hardware survey for January, and wouldn't you know it, Nvidia's top dog is more represented than all of the 7900 XT, XTX, 4080 and 4070 Ti combined. A couple of months ago, when I said that RDNA 3 was AMD's greatest failure in what is the most disliked video on my channel, one of the things I pointed out was that people who are willing to spend $1,000 on a GPU will gladly spend $1,600 or more, which was the price of the 4090 at the time. Let's look at some of the most voted on comments in that video, shall we? I'd consider spending £1,000 on a GPU, but I'd never consider spending £1,600. It's a wild assumption to make that I'd readily spend 60% more just because I'm already spending a lot. Almost 2,000 of you upvoted this comment. Here's another one. I don't know about this take. This card looked great to me. There is a massive difference between 1K and 1.6K for a lot of people. The 4090 is also more like 2K in my market. The performance looks great for $1 per frame. Almost 500 of you upvoted this. The comments on that video are hilarious, by the way. People really didn't realize the direction AMD was shifting to. But anyway, like I said in that video, people who have $1,000 to spend on a GPU will likely have $2,000 and will buy the very best, which is the 4090. I've tried to explain this, but people just don't get it. And it's the people who have never spent more than $400 on a GPU that are the most vocal. You can disagree all you want, but the numbers speak for themselves. People are not buying $1,000 GPUs, they are buying the 4090. Like Lisa said, AMD has no interest in the low-end or low-margin products. As such, I've been recommending getting a last-gen 6900 XT, but it seems AMD has that angle covered also. At the time of making this video, it's been 2 months since AMD has last updated drivers for last-gen products, so either AMD doesn't have the resources to update all the drivers, which seems the most likely, or they are trying to get their fan base to upgrade to the 7000s by artificially obsoleting last-gen. Either way, it's not working. Intel has dropped prices on their GPUs, but not to the point where they are good buys, so the PC enthusiast is getting royally fudged. You either buy Nvidia's insanely overpriced products, or you can forget about upgrading. If AMD is already neglecting the 6000 series buyers, what do you think will happen to the 7000 series buyers when a new generation comes out? You might try and defend AMD by saying that RDNA 3 is not compatible in one way or another with RDNA 2, so they are prioritizing the new generation. But who's to say that that won't be the case with RDNA 4 compared to RDNA 3? The message that AMD is projecting is that they either won't or can't support products from 2 years ago. So how are enthusiasts supposed to trust their hard-earned cash to them if they will be abandoned as soon as a new generation is out? AMD's anti-consumer strategy extends to CPUs also. They just announced the pricing and release dates for the 3D variants of Zen 4, and while the prices seem okay to me, notice that AMD is launching the 7950X3D and the 7900X3D on the 28th of this month, but the 7800X3D is only coming out in April. Why? My guess is that in gaming, the 7800X3D performs the same as the more expensive Ryzen 9s. So AMD doesn't want you to see the benchmark numbers for the 8-core CPU. It's scummy, greedy, and manipulative. So basically what we've come to expect from AMD. The company is doing well from a financial standpoint, especially when you look at the shit show that is Intel. I think Lisa Su and her team have done a great job in diversifying their portfolio so that they're less exposed than Intel and other tech companies that have a narrower focus. The Xilinx and Pensando acquisitions were spot on, and I think AMD's data center prospects look much better than Intel's. AMD's client business will do very poorly this year, with the exception of the consoles, which I guess have their own segment in gaming. I think those will do well, especially as it's getting impossible to build console equivalent PCs for a reasonable amount of money. So yeah, I think AMD's future looks bright as a company, but there are areas, namely the GPU division and client CPUs, that will struggle. The one big question mark has to do with AMD's core audience. Judging from those comments from the 7000's announcement video I made, I think people are still convinced the AMD of old is still around. That AMD is gone, in case case you haven't noticed. If AMD's core audience abandons them, then who will buy those high-margin products that Lisa says are now their core focus? The data center and embedded will keep the company going. What if that segment collapses or shifts to a competitor? I think treating the PC enthusiasts the way they have been, even in a declining market, could prove fatal for AMD. I will look at Nvidia's results later this month, but in the meantime, stay tuned for some more positive content that I'm working on. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. This video was made possible by my awesome patrons. By supporting my channel on Patreon, you will gain access to the Cortex Discord server, where you can talk to me directly and join a welcoming community of tech enthusiasts. If you can't contribute at this time, then give this video a like and share it, as that really helps. Thanks for watching, and until the next one.